Welcome back, fellow drifters. I'm here to help you make it through another day. This is your neon oasis in the desert of the dark, your voice from the other side. If you enjoy the stories, hit like and subscribe. I've always debated posting this story, but never knew the right place to post it, so apologies if this isn't the place. But I wanted to share an experience I had about 13 years ago. For backstory, my cousin used to live in northern Alabama, and his family had a polo field about 20 to 30 miles from the Tennessee state line. He told me a couple of times back when he lived on the property that he'd see this figure around the property, outside his windows, out in the field, stuff like that. But these were stories late night on Xbox, and I never put too much thought into them. Flash forward to a trip when I went up to visit him, around 2010. We went camping on the polo field. It was a cool August night with a full moon, and we set up our tent and fire out in the middle of the field. We had made food and were just shooting the shit, listening to music, when we started getting some strong cold and hot winds. The area was known for tornadoes, so we decided to pack up and leave. We had gotten most of the stuff back in the car, and I decided to lay back up on the top of one of the hay bales and just look at the night sky, because I hadn't seen a full night sky after moving to a city with such high light pollution. After a couple of minutes, my cousin tells me everything is packed and we're ready to go. So I hop up and look out across the field. And at the edge of the field, at the fence line about 75 to 100 yards away, that's where I saw it. This human-like silhouette just standing right at the fence, looking right in our direction. I knew the fences were about 4 feet tall, and they were sitting above its waistline, so it appeared to be over 6 feet, near 7 feet tall. It looked human, but something just seemed off. Its limbs were thin and its eyes were reflective like that of an animal. I couldn't make out a lot of facial features, but it just seemed flat and grayish or pale. The best way I could describe it was a mix between the Rake and the vampires from I Am Legend. I quickly hopped down and told my cousin to leave and explained what I saw after we got back to his parents. From what I described to him, it matches what he saw from 5 to 8 years prior, when he was a kid. There's a few stories of his other friends seeing it around the woods a couple of years afterwards, when they'd camp, but no one still really has an explanation of what it could be or what it was. We've looked into the area, and there was an old asylum abandoned from the late 80s, early 90s, but given the span of around 15 years that the creature was seen, we don't think it could be some weirdo living out there. Has anyone seen anything matching what this could be around the northern Alabama, southern Tennessee area? Does anyone know what this creature is? This is probably going to sound like nothing, especially to people who've lived in the country their whole lives, but I can't stop thinking about it. I live in a small town in New Hampshire, Ashland, real quiet place, under 2,000 people. I moved here 6 months ago for the peace and quiet after a rough couple of years in Boston. I rent a little house on the edge of town, past the mill. It's not quite rural, but there are woods behind my place, and my nearest neighbor is a good 100 yards down the road. It's just me, my dog, and a wood stove that doesn't heat for shit. Anyway, last night was miserable. Pouring rain, wind slapping the windows, power flickered for a few times. I stayed in, drank some tea, read for a bit, and then went to bed around 11. Nothing unusual. I was woken up a little bit before 2 a.m. by my dog Rosie. She's a lab mix, and she was growling. Not barking, just this low, steady rumble in her throat. She was facing the back door, totally still, ears up. I sat up, groggy, and listened. Rain and wind, but nothing else. Rosie just wouldn't relax. I whispered her name, and she gave me this look, tail low and body tense. I've had her for 5 years. I know her scared look, and I've never seen it like that. Then came the sound. Someone was walking in the gravel behind the house. It wasn't loud, not over the rain, but I heard it. Wet footsteps on loose rock, slow, not running, not stumbling, but walking. like they knew where they were going. Rosie started whining low in her throat. I got out of bed and went to the back door. I didn't turn the porch light on. I don't know why. I just looked through the slit in the curtain. Nothing was out there. Just the yard, dark and soaked. The tree line maybe 30 feet back. The motion sensor light wasn't even on, which should have triggered if anything came within 10 feet of the door. But the sound had been so close. That's when I saw it. No, I didn't see it, I guess. But I noticed something off. The way the trees were moving. Everything was blowing in the wind except for one patch, maybe 6 feet across, where the branches weren't moving at all. No sway, no twitch, just still, like something was blocking the wind. I blinked and then focused harder. But the moment I leaned in, Rosie exploded, barking, growling, lunging at the door like she was going to tear through it. I jumped back and yanked her collar, heart pounding. And then, just like that, the motion light clicked on. There was nothing back there. The yard was empty. But in the middle of the gravel path, exactly where the steps had been, I saw wet prints. Bare feet, I swear to God. Not boot prints, not shoe prints, but feet. They weren't big, maybe size 9 or 10, but spaced wrong. Like whoever it was had been walking low to the ground. Not crawling exactly, but hunched. The spacing was strange, too far apart for a normal gait. I locked the deadbolt, closed the curtains. Rosie wouldn't leave the door. She just sat there, staring like she was waiting for it to come back. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. This morning, when I finally worked up the nerve to go outside, the footprints were gone. Rain had washed them away. I walked the tree line. Nothing. But in the mud near the shed, I found something. A single print, just the front half, toes dug in deep into the mud. No heel. Like whatever left it was crawling or walking on the balls of its feet. Either way, it wasn't human. It didn't look like it was moving like one anyways. I don't know what I heard or saw last night. A trespasser, a prankster, maybe. But they didn't try to break in, and they didn't steal anything. They didn't knock or shout or mess with me. They just stood there, quiet and watching. If anyone from around the Grafton County has experienced anything like this, I'd honestly like to know. I'm not trying to start some creature in the woods hysteria. I just want to know if I should be worried, or if maybe I'm losing it. Either way, I've started locking every door, even the basement hatch, and Rosie doesn't go outside alone anymore. This is something I've told almost no one, not because I'm afraid people won't believe me, but because even I'm not sure what I saw or what it meant. I was 11 when it happened. I'm 32 now, and the memory still feels like it's waiting just under my skin. My family used to take summer camping trips in Wisconsin, my dad's idea of bonding. This one was in 2004, in a quiet, thick stretch of forest near the Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest. A remote little campground, probably only 5 or 6 sites, no electricity, barely any cell signal, just old pines, cold air, and silence. That silence is the first thing I remember feeling wrong. The first night was normal. We roasted hot dogs, skipped rocks on a nearby lake, and watched the stars. But even then, I noticed how quiet everything was. No bugs or frogs, just wind through the trees, and even that sounded distant, like it wasn't really reaching us. The second day, we hiked a loop trail that wrapped around the lake and cut back through the woods. Midway through, I started to feel like we weren't alone. I kept looking behind us. Trees felt too close, shadows felt off, like they moved just before I turned my head. My brother Ben teased me, "You scared of squirrels now?" But even he kept checking over his shoulder. That night, I woke up needing to pee. Our tent was just a few yards from the tree line. The outhouse was further, maybe 100 feet down a narrow path. I didn't want to go alone, but I was too embarrassed to wake my dad. I stepped out with a flashlight. The air was freezing, and the silence had thickened into something almost physical. Not just quiet, but an absence, like the woods were holding their breath. I was halfway down the path when I felt it. Not heard, but felt a presence, a weight in the dark. I swept the flashlight through the trees but saw nothing. Still, I knew something was there, watching me. I turned slowly, and that's when I saw the eyes reflecting amber in the light. Too far off the ground to be a deer, not wide like prey animals, they were forward-facing, focused. But that's all I could see. No shape, no fur, just the vague outline of something impossibly still. It didn't move, it didn't blink, it just stared at me. I turned and walked back, careful not to run. I don't remember going back to sleep. I don't remember telling anyone. But something must have changed, because the next night, my dad insisted we keep the fire going late. He said it was just in case, but didn't say in case of what. Around 1 a.m. I was still awake. Everyone else was asleep. The fire had died to embers. I laid there, listening to the dark, when I heard movement, slow and deliberate. Not crashing through the woods again like a deer, not scratching like a raccoon, but footsteps, heavy and bipedal, circling the tent. Then it stopped. I held my breath. Something brushed against the side of the tent, slow like a hand. I don't know how long it stayed. Could have been minutes, could have been hours. But eventually I heard it retreat into the woods, into the dark. I didn't sleep, and I didn't wake anyone else. I just waited for the light. When we packed up in the morning, my dad found tracks. Not footprints exactly, more like impressions. Long sunken marks in the pine needles that ended suddenly, as if whatever made them just stopped existing. We didn't talk about it on the ride home. In fact, we didn't talk about that trip ever again. I've looked into it since. Wisconsin has stories. Dogman, the Beast of Bray Road, things like that. But nothing quite fits. What I saw wasn't just an animal, and it didn't feel like a monster either. It felt old, aware, not evil, just beyond. Like it had always been there in the trees, waiting for someone to notice it, and I did. Whatever it was didn't chase me, it didn't attack. It just let me see it. I still don't know why, and I still don't know what would have happened if I hadn't looked away. I live in a pretty normal suburban neighborhood in northern Illinois. Lots of split-level homes, trimmed lawns, and too many dogs. It's not the kind of place where weird stuff happens. The wildest thing I've dealt with was some idiot kid trying to car surf on his dad's SUV last summer. Anyways, last night I was up late, and I couldn't sleep. Around 1:45 a.m., I stepped out onto my back deck for some air. It was one of those unusually warm May nights where the breeze feels too still, like everything's holding its breath. I live near a small drainage easement behind my yard, a shallow dip with some brush and a concrete storm drain. There's a chain link fence, but it's got a hole that the neighbor kids use to get to the park on the other side. I was just standing there, half asleep, when I saw something move at the edge of the brush. I thought it might be a coyote. We get those sometimes, usually skinny and skittish. But this didn't move like a coyote. It was low to the ground, pale, like really pale, almost white. No fur, and it sort of slithered, but not quite. It had limbs and it was using them, but not in the way I can easily describe. Its elbows, or whatever they were, jutted out sideways and it dragged itself more than walked. Think of a person doing that military crawl, but faster and wrong, like its joints didn't bend the right way. I froze. I was about to write it off as a messed up raccoon or something when it stopped. It turned its head towards me. I say head, but I couldn't make out a face, just this smooth, roundish shape with a faint glint where eyes might be. I couldn't even tell if it had eyes, but I swear it looked at me. Then it just waited. It didn't move, didn't flinch. I couldn't even see it breathing. We stayed like that, me on the deck, it in the brush, for maybe 30 seconds. Then it started crawling toward the fence. Not towards me, just toward the hole in the fence that led to the neighborhood proper. That snapped me out of it. I wasn't about to let some sick-looking thing wander around where kids play. So I ran inside and grabbed my flashlight and came back out. But it was gone. I went down to the fence and there was nothing. Just grass and night sounds. I stood there for a bit, trying to decide if I'd imagined the whole thing. Then I heard something metal, a light clink like a garbage can lid being nudged. It came from 2 yards over. I wasn't about to chase it, so I just stood there, shining my light through the fence like an idiot, waiting. About 20 minutes later, I saw lights come on in my neighbor's house across the street. They've got a ring cam on their porch, so I made note to ask them in the morning. This morning, I went and did that. Their camera caught something at 2:07 a.m. You can see this thing crawl across their front lawn, just for a second at the edge of the frame. My neighbor, Mark, showed it to me without me even bringing it up first. He thought it was a prank, said it looked like a naked guy on all fours, except it moved too fast and its limbs looked too long. I asked if he was going to report it and he laughed. Report what? That someone's playing Nightcrawler in the suburbs? Fair point. I thought maybe it was a hairless animal with mange, but the footage, I don't know. There's something off about how it moves, and I haven't seen any dead animals or tracks. No dogs barking, nothing. But here's the weird part. I went back down to the fence around noon to look around. The hole is the same, nothing disturbed. But about 4 feet away in the tall grass, I found a small pile of dead birds, 5 of them, neatly arranged. There wasn't any blood, they were just stiff. I don't know what I saw last night. I don't think it was human. I'm not saying it was a monster or anything like that, but it wasn't normal. Something's off. Something's very off here. I'll be staying inside tonight, and if you live near Forest Glen subdivision in Lake County and hear something dragging itself down your sidewalk after midnight, maybe don't go outside. I work at a gas station off M28 in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. It's the kind of place people drive past without noticing. Just 2 pumps, a tiny shop, and a whole lot of woods. I've worked the night shift on and off for a couple of years. It's usually boring, the quiet kind of boring that makes you notice every creak and buzz. I've seen some odd things here, but nothing that really stuck with me until last week. It was around 9:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. Raining lightly, cold, one of those nights where the trees look like black smudges against a darker sky. We hadn't had a customer since about 8:15. No traffic either. That's not unusual out here. I was doing what I usually do on slow nights, stocking shelves, counting cigarettes, half watching a video on my phone behind the counter. Everything was quiet, just the hum of the coolers and the rain tapping on the roof. Then, all of a sudden, I got this strange feeling. You know when you think someone's looking at you, like a weight just settles over the air? That's what it felt like. I looked up, and through the front window, across the dark parking lot, I noticed something at the edge of the tree line. It wasn't moving, not at first, just a shape, a slightly darker patch against the trees. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the light, maybe a stump or branch I hadn't noticed before. But then I saw it blink. 2 faint glints. Eyes, I think. Low at first, then higher. Too high. The shape shifted, not in a way I can describe easily. It didn't step forward. It didn't lurch or crawl. It just adjusted, like it stood straighter or leaned out from the trees a little more. Still not moving much, just enough that I could tell it wasn't part of the forest. It was watching me. I couldn't explain why, but I felt it. I reached over and flipped off the interior lights. The store went dim, and suddenly I could see the outside a little clearer through the glass. The parking lot was empty. The overhead lights cast a pale glow on the wet pavement. At the very edge, just beyond where the light reached, the shape was still there, tall, thin, and motionless. I kept staring, waiting for it to move again, to do something, but it just stood there. I couldn't make out details, no fur, no claws, just a tall, narrow silhouette, head slightly forward, shoulders hunched, the kind of thing your brain doesn't want to categorize. Then, without warning, I heard a click. Pump 2 activated. No car, no movement in the lot, just the screen lighting up and the beep that says the pump is ready to use. I hit the emergency shutoff and ducked behind the counter. I stayed there, trying not to breathe too loudly, listening for anything, footsteps, tapping, anything. But all I could hear was the rain. When I finally got the courage to peek out again, the shape was gone. I stayed behind the counter until my shift ended at 10. I didn't check the lot. I didn't go outside. The next morning, I checked the security camera. The footage from the pump area was clean, no movement or cars. The camera facing the woods was half obscured by fog and rain, but for about 30 seconds around 9:30, there's something, a blur, a flicker, like static in the frame, but shaped almost like a person standing still, and then it's gone. No tracks in the lot the next day. Nothing on the pavement, no sign anyone or anything was there. I haven't told anyone except for writing this. I don't think I saw a monster. I don't think it was a ghost either. But I do know that something was standing in those trees, something tall and aware, and I haven't worked a night shift since. This happened when I was 14, but it stuck with me ever since. I grew up in rural New Mexico, about 20 miles outside Farmington. My cousin Jesse and I were basically raised like brothers. He'd come stay with us every summer since his family lived in Albuquerque. That year, 2006, we spent most days out hiking, shooting pellet guns, and doing the usual bored kid in the desert stuff. We had this spot up on a mesa a few miles from my parents' house. Nothing fancy, just a flat patch with a fire ring and a killer view. It became our spot. We'd bring sodas, junk food, and just hang out there after sunset until the sky turned black. One week in July, we decided to do a little camp out. Not a real one, just sleep out under the stars up on the mesa. My parents said fine as long as we checked in by radio and we were back by sunrise. We packed up sleeping bags, flashlights, and some snacks and hiked out. Everything was normal at first. Sunset, cicadas, and a little breeze. Then around 11 p.m., Jesse nudged me. "Do you see that?" There was a shape on the slope about 50 yards below us. Just a shadow at first, low to the ground like a crouched coyote or a deer. We figured that's what it was and ignored it. But it didn't leave. For 2 hours, that thing sat motionless at the edge of the brush facing us. We shined our flashlights at it, and it would dip its head like it didn't want the light, but it never ran. At some point I whispered, "Should we go back?" Jesse just said, "It's not doing anything." But neither of us laid down. We just sat there, eyes flickering between the fire and the thing in the dark. Eventually we dozed off from sheer exhaustion. The next morning the shape was gone. We convinced ourselves it was just a coyote and hiked home. But the next night it came back, same spot, same shape. And the night after that. But each night it was closer, first 50 yards, then 30, then 20, still crouched, still facing us, still unmoving. On the 5th night it was just at the edge of the firelight. We could see it better now. It wasn't a coyote, it was too long, its limbs were wrong. Not just long, but thin, like it had too many joints. It was still crouching, but its shoulders sat too high for a four-legged animal. Its eyes reflected like an animal's, but higher up than they should have been, like human height. We didn't sleep that night. We sat back to back, flashlights trained on it, whispering about what to do. We never saw it even move, but each time we blinked, it seemed just a little closer, like it was waiting. When the morning came, it was gone. Sometime during the night, we dozed off for a little bit, and that's when it must have left. We finally told my dad, and he got real quiet, then just said, "Don't go up there anymore." He didn't explain. He didn't even ask questions. Just told us to stay away from that mesa. We didn't listen, not at first. We went up one last time during the day to grab our stuff. We found our sleeping bags shredded, not clawed, not chewed, torn into long, even strips, like by fingers. Jesse's backpack was gone completely. My flashlight had been smashed to pieces and left in a neat little pile. No animal did that. Even now, years later, I sometimes catch Jesse staring off when we're camping or driving through the desert. If I ask him what he's thinking, he always says the same thing. It didn't want to hurt us. It just wanted us to know it was there. I don't know what we saw out there, but it watched us for 5 nights and it never moved, never spoke, never blinked. and that was enough. This happened in the summer of 2018, just outside Flagstaff, Arizona. My mom's side of the family is Navajo, and every year we'd visit my grandmother's place near the edge of the reservation. The land out there is quiet. No streetlights, no neighbors for miles, just open desert and pinyon trees. One night, my cousin Jay and I decided to take a walk after dinner. We were about a half a mile from the house, just talking and laughing, when we heard what sounded like someone calling James' name from the tree line. Jay. We both stopped. It wasn't Grandma or any of our family. The voice was off, too slow, like someone trying to sound human. Jay thought it was his older brother messing with us, so he yelled back, "Not funny, man." Silence. Then we heard it again, closer this time. "Jay, come here." We both got quiet. Jay whispered, "That's not him." We started walking fast toward the house, and that's when we heard footsteps behind us. Not running, just matching our pace. I glanced over my shoulder and nearly tripped. There was someone standing in the dark, maybe 20 feet behind us, tall and thin. It kind of looked like Jay. Same clothes, same hair, but the face was off, like it had been copied from memory and stitched together by someone who didn't quite get it right. Then it smiled, too wide and too many teeth. Jay grabbed my arm and said, "Don't look at it, just go." We sprinted back to the house. I didn't even look behind me again. Grandma was already outside on the porch, smudging the air with sage. She must have known. We didn't talk about it that night, but the next morning, Jay showed me something that made my stomach drop. There were bare footprints in the dirt outside our window. Clawed footprints. I still don't know what we saw out there, but Grandma did. She just said, "Don't answer when something calls your name in the dark. That's not who you think it is." This happened in the fall of 2016, and I haven't shared it outside of a few late-night conversations with friends. It still bothers me, not because of what I saw, but because of what I didn't see, or didn't see clearly, I guess. I was driving alone from Holbrook, Arizona to meet a crew outside of Albuquerque. I worked for a construction contractor that bounced around between sites in Arizona and New Mexico, and this wasn't an unusual route for me. That night, I decided to take Highway 491 south from Gallup before cutting over towards the interstate. I liked the quiet of the back roads, usually. It was just after 11 p.m. I remember because I was scanning through radio stations and I noticed it was mostly static at that hour. No traffic or buildings, just pitch-black desert, my headlights and the sound of tires on old pavement. Somewhere, maybe 40 or 50 miles south of Gallup, I started to get this weird sense, like I was being watched. I know that sounds dramatic, but I swear it felt like something had noticed me. Not in a supernatural way, just a gut instinct. Kinda like someone on the shoulder was about to flag me down or walk into the road. So I slowed up a bit, more alert than I had been all night. And that's when it happened. Something darted across the road about 30 yards ahead of me from right to left, and it was fast. I only caught it in the very edge of my headlights, a blur. I slammed the brakes on instinct, heart jumping into my throat, and just sat there in the middle of the road. Nothing behind me, nothing around, just that low idling hum of the engine. I couldn't tell what it was. I want to say it was a deer, but it didn't move like a deer. Too low to the ground, but too fast and smooth for anything crawling. And it didn't gallop. It moved in a sort of lurching zigzag, like it was trying to avoid the light. I only saw it for a split second. No details, just motion and this pale, off-white flash against the blacktop. And even that could have been dust or reflection for all I know. What I do know is that my whole body locked up. I crept forward slowly with my brights on, scanning the brush on both sides of the road. There was nothing. No eye shine, no rustling, not even a jackrabbit. I figured maybe it was a coyote, but even coyotes don't move like that. And usually you catch more than just one flicker. They hesitate, stop, and look back, run in a straight line. This, whatever it was like it timed its run, like it knew exactly how long it could stay in my peripheral vision. I ended up driving another 15 miles before I even saw another car, and I didn't stop until I hit a gas station on the outskirts of Grants. I just sat there with the engine running, staring at the darkness beyond the parking lot. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd narrowly missed something I wasn't supposed to see. I told a guy at the worksite about it the next day. He was from Shiprock, quiet type, didn't say much usually. But when I described it, he got this real still look and said, "If you don't know what you saw, it's best not to ask." I laughed it off at the time, but he was dead serious, wouldn't say anything more. I've since read about skinwalkers, Navajo folklore about witches or shapeshifters that can move like animals or imitate them. I'm not claiming that's what I saw. I never got a good look, and maybe that's the worst part. If I'd seen a coyote or a dog or even a person, I could file it away and forget it. But the not knowing, the way it moved, the way it stayed just outside of clear vision, that's what stuck with me. And the way my gut locked up before I even saw anything, like my brain was catching up to something my instincts already knew. That's something I've never forgotten. I still take that route during the daytime sometimes, but never at night, not anymore. Whatever it was, I don't think it wanted to be seen, and I think it chose exactly how much it let me see.